Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we watch the Sunday morning news show so that you do not have to. I'm Katie Halper.
I'm Aaron Maté. Good Monday morning, everybody. What a great way to start the week. Us, you guys, and some of the worst people on corporate TV. As always, our website is usefulidiotspodcast.com. Go there to support the show and get bonus content.
Yeah. Extended interviews, Thursday Throwdown, your midweek dose of media madness. You get to sleep well at night knowing you're supporting this important and good show, if we do say so ourselves. And I guess we're just going to get to it, Aaron, with Meet the Depressed.
Let's go to Meet the Depressed.
Good Sunday morning. The nation is once again reeling after an horrific act of political violence. Conservative activist and influential Trump supporter Charlie Kirk shot and killed on a college campus in Utah while answering questions about mass shootings. After a 33-hour manhunt, the suspected killer now in custody, a 22-year-old Utah resident who was turned in by his family.
You know, when she says he was answering questions about mass shootings, wasn't he specifically being asked about like his claim that like trans people are disproportionately involved in mass shootings? Do I have that right?
I believe so. And then he said, well, are you counting gang violence?
Okay. Yeah. And then he was killed.
Yeah.
In the last decade, there have been a growing number of acts of political violence impacting Democrats and Republicans. Utah's Governor Spencer Cox casting this moment as a dangerous crossroads.
I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history, yes. The question is what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history?
I'm going to go with beginning. Yeah. the way things are trending.
Yeah.
Look at the trend lines here. I'm going to go with the beginning of something even worse. Yes. That's my guess.
We'd like to not have that guess, but we would feel irresponsible if we weren't honest about it. So yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where the nation's at, but if you were to poll people, I think that's the general trend right now. It's just right. Look, that's what happens when you have a former reality TV show host, president, who is conning his supporters and thinking he's fighting for them while serving the ultra wealthy. So offering people absolutely nothing except blaming and demonizing marginalized groups, as Trump continues to do in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's murder, calling the left scum and all that, while meanwhile fueling a genocide. So talk about like a culture of violence, like literally it's a culture that's normalized the daily live streamed Holocaust in Gaza, which of course continues, and Israel's continuing to destroy Gaza City, the last livable part of Gaza, because they just want to turn Gaza into a complete wasteland so that no Palestinians can live there ever again. So in that kind of culture where a genocide is normalized, things are going to turn into a really grim stage. And I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, and it is a really important point, Aaron, that, no one talks about this genocide. And of course, they don't use the word genocide in the mainstream media, even though there's consensus around that. But it is true that people aren't talking about this as a new stage, right? Like nothing is there are like no existential questions asked by the media when things like hospitals are bombed, right? When children's arms are blown off, when children are Gaza is now the child amputee capital of the world, right? Like there's none of this hand wringing or a search for answers about the lack of humanity there. It just built into it.
All right. Well, let's get some insight from a Sunday news show mainstay, a wise sage, someone we turn to a lot for his insight in troubling times. That's Senator Lindsey Graham, the hawkish senator from South Carolina, who spends his time fomenting violence around the world. What is his take on the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Trump has said he does not want any type of violence to come in the wake of this. He has also blamed Charlie Kirk's assassination on what he called the radical left. Elon Musk, though, posted on X, quote, "The left is the party of murder." We're hearing some of those same messages on Capitol Hill.
Correction, Elon Musk, you're both the party of murder.
Yeah.
If we're talking about mass murder, again, in Gaza, both parties lined up to support that. So that would be my correction to Elon Musk.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But if we're looking domestically, who's more in favor of murder at home? Well, I would say it's the party that like pushes laws that make it really easy for people to acquire assault weapons that kill people, and that's the Republicans. I do think Democrats are less pro-murder on the domestic front.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Foreign policy wise, equally murderous, slightly less murderous for the Dems domestically.
Useful idiots, occasionally lib. Occasionally we have to get a little lib. We just do because these Republicans say the craziest thing.
And it doesn't make you lib, because if we were just libs, I think we'd be more excited about the Democrats, right? We're not really saying that they're good. I mean, I guess this is the lesser evilism, but we're not telling people how to vote. We're just assessing reality. There you go. And if you like that, no matter what you like, please do give this a thumbs up, no matter what you like politically. Yeah.
Senator,
yeah.
Do you believe this is the right message for this moment?
I think what the head of the Oxford Union, the young man about to take over, is one of the greatest debating societies in the world in Oxford, England. He said, Charlie Kirk got shot, let's effing go. There is an effort by the radical left to dehumanize the MAGA movement. And I reject political violence. If you are offended by
that's great, but that's great that he's rejecting political violence. But in terms of the dehumanization of the MAGA movement, I kind of think that we have to play just one excerpt of Donald Trump giving a speech. Let's play this.
Pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
I kind of feel like that's a bit dehumanizing. And that's from the president.
What, to call someone vermin?
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
I know. I'm going out on a limb.
Come on.
Yeah.
Vermin can be endearing. Oh, look, little vermin. Look at the vermin.
Yeah.
Look at that sweet little vermin.
Hey, I have humane mouse traps. We had a little mouse issue. I had the humane ones because they are cute.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. So Trump was just being endearing. You know what I mean? The sweet vermin among us.
Yeah. Right. That he was going to root out in an affectionate, fun way.
Okay, all right, back to Lindsey Graham.
Back to Lindsey, yeah.
what somebody says or does, then take up a political cause to fight back, not a gun, not a bomb, not a knife. We don't need the Mideast moment here in America where it turns into just revenge killing. We don't.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that astute insight into what is happening in the Middle East. Yeah, it's just revenge killing.
Well, first of all, I mean, putting aside like the racism in that statement just for a moment, because like the Middle East moment, so this like inherently violent region, unlike us, even though we export more violence around the world than anybody else, I would say combined. As Dr. King said, we're the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Putting that aside, what is the Israeli response to October 7th, if not a prolonged revenge killing? That's all it is. Everyone knows that. Like, even Israeli leaders are like, yeah, we've done, to whatever extent you can claim we even had a military goal, which of course Israel never did. All they had was the intent to wipe out Gaza. But they're like, yeah, we've done everything against Hamas that we can. But of course, there has to be this ongoing mass murder spree of tens of thousands of people. The official toll, of course, is a vast undercount. The vast majority of people killed in Gaza are not combatants. They're innocent people, men, women, children. So, yeah, Israel's all about revenge killings,
right?
Lindsey Graham. On top of the fact that, like, if you want to talk about Middle East moment, Lindsey Graham is a longtime advocate of violence in the Middle East at every single turn, every single war, every single proxy war there he supports.
Yeah. He calls Hamas the new Nazis. He's also a big, to be fair, Aaron, this is your lane, especially. He's very pro-violence when it comes to Ukraine, right?
He openly celebrated the fact that as long as we keep arming Ukraine, they'll fight to the last person.
So disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh, really gross.
Need a Mideast moment for America here. What we need to do is be honest with each other. President Trump is not just president of the United States. He's the leader of a movement. Charlie Kirk was his chief lieutenant. This is viewed by many people in the MAGA.
I mean, I agree with that statement that Charlie Kirk was a major part of Trump's MAGA movement. And that's why I think we're seeing, like, basically Charlie Kirk's received like a state funeral, essentially.
Right.
Which is just weird. He wasn't like a military veteran. He wasn't officially a part of the government, because he was like, you know, a Trump supporter and a very effective one. He gets like the state funeral treatment, essentially, which is a little weird, I think. Like, you can honor the guy.
Right.
He obviously was friends with people in the administration, but to paint him as this like national towering figure who, like,
He was very tall.
he was okay. All right. Oh, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a great image of like, I guess the U.S. government flying, or the U.S. military flying like the flag half mast at the McDonald's in Gitmo.
Yeah.
Movement, conservatives like myself, is an attack on the movement, not just traditional political violence. And I really believe that. And what I'm asking everybody to do is not to resort to violence to settle your political differences. To those wounded and hurt, Turning Point wasn't a violent organization. It wasn't Antifa. It wasn't the KKK. If you really want to honor Charlie's legacy, get involved. Do what he did.
By the way, I like the way he's equating Antifa with the KKK.
Yeah, sure.
I
Yeah.
think one is a lot
KKK,
more.
Antifa. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
One
Yeah. One of the same. He's in the pod.
Did organize debate. Let's win in 2026. That's the best way to do this.
Senator, very quickly, I hear in your voice what you're saying. Are you worried there could be retaliation?
Yeah, you always worry about people, you know, somebody very close to you gets killed for thinking like you. For him, you know, Charlie was a symbol of MAGA to so many young people who felt disenfranchised. He said things that people don't like. I understand that, but the answer is not to kill him. This guy was something. He created a movement on colleges that no other Republican could ever create. Yeah. He's one of the chief reasons that President Trump won, and I'm glad to hear his widow say that we're going to continue. But my advice to America here is, there's, you know, killing people, that's what they do in the Mideast. That's not what we do.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, we kill people in the Middle East. That's what we do, actually. We kill tens of thousands of people, like in Gaza right now, and many other places where Lindsey Graham has supported political violence. But so he's just saying he just doesn't want it to impact his own clique of people. He's fine to export everywhere else, but just not to members of his own political circle.
Yeah, but does he also realize he's insulting our fellow American Israelis, you know, with whom we have such a special relationship, when he's talking about the Mideast? Like, are they like collateral damage for his racist statement?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, people simultaneously claim that Israel is like indigenous to the Middle East, but also say Israel is like the only Western state in the Middle East, because like it is a Western, like it's European. Right. It's European colonialists. So they try to have it both ways there. So yeah, so in his mind right now, he's exempting the European enlightened Western Israelis from Middle East barbarism, even though, of course, the biggest murderers in the Middle East are undoubtedly the Israelis, as they commit genocide.
Yeah. We should have, by the way, someone just wrote, OMG, I forgot about Seinfeld's idiotic statements about the KKK. We should keep like some kind of tally of every time someone makes a ridiculous comparison to the KKK, or for Free Palestine to KKK, or, you know, Confederate flag, what have you.
These Palestinians are making me racist.
Yeah, that was good.
That's my Jerry impression. Sorry, everybody. Okay, for more insight, let's turn to Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump.
Oh, this is a good one.
Courage. You know, there's that famous quote right after Pearl Harbor, you know, I think we've just awoken a sleeping giant and filled him with terrible resolve. And it kind of rings true.
Wait, so this is like Pearl Harbor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably
one guy getting assassinated is like Pearl Harbor. So are we going to invade somebody now? Like, all right.
Maybe okay. Portland.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I shouldn't laugh because I think Trump would consider that. invade Portland.
That's exactly what you did. Literally, as I was showing up to the studio, Maria, there was an older Jamaican man who came up to me in very broken English and said, "Mr. Trump, I'm very sorry about Charlie Kirk. He was an amazing Christian. I am Charlie Kirk," right? It's transcended the
Now, let's all say what we're all thinking. Katie, I mean, what did you hear when you heard him tee up this story about an older Jamaican man?
I thought an impersonation was coming down the pipe.
You thought he was going to do the accent. You thought he was going to do the accent.
Yeah. But to be fair, he was speaking in broken English. Does he think that Jamaican people don't speak English as like a first language?
I mean, who knows what goes on the mind of Eric Trump? But I mean, credit to him for not trying at least to do the accent.
Yeah, that's true. Could have been more.
Yeah.
I bet
generation of youth, like
Sorry,
everybody.
I bet the other brother would have done that. Donald Jr.
Yes.
He's less. Less self-control.
Generation of youth, like everybody over the last couple of days has been talking about how Charlie created the greatest youth movement. What's happened with this assassination has affected everybody. I've had employees, Maria, call me and say, "My children, my 17-year-old daughter has been in her room crying. It's changed her immensely." I mean,
From Jamaicans who speak broken English to 17-year-old girls, not one soul has not been touched by Charlie's murder. It's kind of like it's like the presidential story, except for applied to this, and it's like I was talking to, Betty Smith in Missouri, and she told me, just like random people.
Look, there is a human tragedy here, in that like Charlie Kirk. I mean, look, he did not obviously deserve any violence against him. He was exercising his right to free speech, and there's no justification for any act of violence against him or anybody else for their speech. And he leaves behind 2 young children and a wife, and that's the element here that I think is worth mourning, and it's a terrible tragedy, and his family deserves all the sympathy. But then when you pile on this like thing about like now they've awoken this
sleeping giant,
a sleeping giant, as if this is Pearl Harbor, and like and of course, as we talked about last week, just ignoring the fact that people on the liberal side, on the left, they've been attacked with violence too.
Right.
There have been plenty of targeted violence against people on the left. So to make this just like uniquely against MAGA is really irresponsible, and yes, speaks to that more dangerous moment that we could be entering as a result.
Right. Yeah. And again, no one is mentioning the people in Minnesota who were shot and killed. Democrats.
Yeah, the state lawmakers, the state lawmaker and her husband, I believe, who were killed. Yeah, I know. Like that just got swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Okay. More from Eric Trump.
They were being taught revisionist history in the classrooms, and honestly, it all changed. And honestly, that it all has Charlie's DNA in it. So we're going to miss a great friend, but they have definitely awoken that sleeping enemy.
Eric, thank you.
Sleeping enemy, awoken a sleeping enemy. Brings it up again. Also, I like the way he's basically bragging about censorship, right? Like his legacy is changing history books.
Just a side note, I don't know if you've seen the movie Sleeping with the Enemy with Julia Roberts.
Oh, yeah, great film, yeah.
That's one of the scariest bad guys on film ever. Yes. The husband.
Yeah.
Really, really scary.
Yeah.
And yeah. Well, I hope Eric Trump is like you don't want to come across a sleeping enemy. I'll just say that. I mean, I don't know exactly what he's referring to. Like, so what's going to happen now? Like,
atomic bomb.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like Pearl Harbor. I don't know, but scary times. Okay. Let's turn to Kristi Noem, the
oh my gosh,
head of the Department of Homeland Security.
You worry about adversaries, China sending hundreds of thousands of people into the country because of the open border, Russia, the same thing. What can you tell us about the bigger worry? You worried more about...
Wait, China is sending people through the border?
Yeah, Katie, it was said it was asserted as fact, so it must be true.
Right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it must be true that China's doing that. because
Right.
it was just asserted as established fact. So,
It is,
yeah.
right. But also Noam, she's constantly bragging about how the border is closed, remember? And they painted it with hot black paint. Well, they painted with black paint, which will get hot and make it hard for people to climb. So I'm getting a mixed message here. Are the borders open to Chinese people or their proxies that they're sending through, or are they closed? I think they need another coat of black paint, it sounds like.
Adversaries trying to unseat America as the number one superpower, or the enemy within, Americans who are turning against their fellow citizens?
Oh, gosh, Maria, you are exactly right. So we talk a lot about cartels and known and suspected terrorists and gang organizations. But the fact is that those evil foreign governments that have sought to take us down for decades and decades, such as China, they infiltrated our country too. They crossed those borders under the Biden policies that opened us up and made us so vulnerable for national security threats. So we do have efforts to make sure that we're removing those individuals as well. And listen, we're a nation of laws. We have borders. We enforce those laws now. We will go after every single person that is a criminal alien that needs to be removed for the safety of our future. And that includes not just cartels and not just foreign terrorist organizations. It includes those evil foreign governments who sent people here too.
And what's really weird about this is that she's like, which is a bigger threat, the enemy within, right? Or the Chinese who are pouring through the open borders. And she's like, oh yeah, you're so right. And then she doesn't mention the enemy within. So I'm thinking that maybe she's prioritizing the Chinese in terms of who she's going after.
All I know is whenever you have an act of violence, you can count on the Trump administration to exploit it to become even more draconian.
Right.
And that's exactly what I think we can expect now out of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Let's turn to the governor of Utah. He has been making the rounds, Spencer Cox, and he gave an update to CNN on the investigation so far into the alleged shooter in Charlie Kirk's murder.
Are reporting that the suspect lived with a transgender partner. Is that accurate? And are investigators looking at this part of his life as a possible motivation?
Yes, definitely. And yes, I can confirm that. I know that has been reported and that the FBI has confirmed that as well, that the roommate was a romantic partner, a male transitioning to female. I can say that he has been very cooperative. This partner has been incredibly cooperative, had no idea that this was happening, and is working with investigators right now.
And how is that relevant to the investigation when it comes to the motive? Are you learning that?
Sure. Well, yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out right now. Again, it's easy to draw conclusions from that, and so we've got the shell casings, other forensic evidence that is coming in, and trying to piece all of those things together.
You said,
like the Wall Street Journal reported,
oh my God,
very early on, like after the murder, that there was transgender ideology written on the shell casings, like on the, and that turned out to be, at least so as far as we know so far, not true. Like there was one reference to there's one thing that said, if you're reading this, you're gay, LMO. You know what I mean?
Well, also it said TRN on the casing, on the bullets, and they claimed that was a trans reference when it's actually like the marking, like the brand of the bullet.
Yeah. So regardless, like that story plus this detail about the trans partner, that obviously it's easy to see what's going to happen. That's going to fuel even more hate towards trans people.
She's really going out on a limb here, Dana. She's like asking him once and asking him twice. And he's actually, he seems much more logical or calm or less bigoted than she is, this Republican governor. I do wonder if the person he's talking to with male pronouns, I do wonder if that person refers to themselves as male or female, a man or a woman, excuse me. But it's like, does she think that everyone who meets someone trans or has a trans partner or roommate then goes out and shoots someone? Like, did she ask that if someone has a cis partner, if that was part of their motivation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the narrative that we're going to get now, because there was such a quick jump to, as you talked about, like to misinterpret the shell casings into thinking that they promoted trans ideology, whatever even that means, trans ideology. But yeah, okay, let's turn to Republican Senator James Lankford. He was asked to respond to the latest insights from Trump senior aide Stephen Miller, who we love to feature on this show because he's always very entertaining. So let's go to that clip.
Very scary moment for our country. And on the question of where we go from here, a top White House aide, Stephen Miller, is vowing to go after, quote, radical left organizations he says are fomenting violence. Listen to more of what he said.
My message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate. You want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile. Because the power of law enforcement under President Trump's leadership will be used to find you, will be used to take away your money, take away your power, and if you've broken the law, to take away your freedom.
Is that what you want to happen, Senator?
Well, I would say if there's someone preparing to be able to take out an aggressive act against someone or to be able to violate the law, that is the role of law enforcement, to be able to protect Americans. We need to be careful in how we talk about this, whether it is talking about white nationalists and preparing to be able to attack and to be able to carry an attack, or to somebody like a Timothy McVeigh that hated the government intensely and in my state 30 years ago murdered 168 people in Oklahoma City, or whether it is a leftist group that is interested in actually attacking a pro-life center that we saw several years ago, or whether it's carrying out some other act of terrorism. Or
I was actually shocked to hear someone mention white nationalists as a source of terrorism.
Yeah, that's a rare thing for a Republican to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to again apologize to our viewers for the unprofessionalism of CNN for having dogs in the background.
I know.
It's just come on.
Dogs. Yeah.
You're doing a live show, like what I mean, like control your dogs.
We've
encountered this. It's weird. Like on Youth Dates, we somehow continue to have this problem. Like we pick the clips, and the clips always have dogs barking. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, really weird. Yeah.
If
really unprofessional. Mass media. Yeah. Check yourself. Okay.
Trying to be able to intimidate people. We should have equal application of the law to saying if you're choosing to be able to carry out an aggressive, violent act, that should be something that we actually try to interdict anytime that we possibly can. Again, thinking something, talking about something is very different than carrying out that action. We have freedom of speech, but you do not have the freedom to be able to plan, prepare, and carry out an attack against another American, no matter what your ideology.
Last week, just to follow up on what Stephen Miller is suggesting here, he said, quote, the Democratic Party is not a political party, it's a domestic extremist organization.
Well, they have a very different view than I do. I'm a conservative Republican. I have Democratic friends that think very differently, vote very differently, but they're still my friend on it. So just having that ideology, just believing differently than some other American is not illegal. That's America. We don't all agree as next door neighbors on different things, but it is very different to try to plan, strategize to be able to carry.
All right. So basically the takeaway here is that Stephen Miller is so unhinged that he makes someone like James Lankford look, sober and rational, even though James Lankford has all kinds of extremist views himself.
Right.
Huge promoter, for example, of violence around the world. So that's
Although, to be fair, Aaron, that doesn't make him an extremist. It just makes him a normal elected official.
Yeah, I guess so. But Stephen Miller is just, I mean, you can see it in his face. He's just I've never seen the guy smile, for example. When you have a very low smile to talk ratio,
right?
That's an ominous sign. And so he does make his Republican counterpart here, Senator Lankford, look sober and rational by comparison.
And by the way, Lankford, just to give people some context, he decided to deny. He voted not to certify Biden as president.
There we go.
Yeah,
the moderate voice. Inside the Republican Party, because thanks to Stephen Miller. Okay.
Stephen Miller says, like, they want us to be afraid. We're not afraid. He does sound afraid, though.
He does sound very afraid. He does sound very afraid.
Yeah.
He sounds very afraid. Okay.
Oh, we have a great one coming up.
Senator Katie Britt. She gave that response once to Biden's State of the Union that got widely mocked because it was like so awkward and it was recorded in a kitchen. But here she is giving it another go. Her comments on the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Disgusting. The rhetoric that led us to this moment, calling President Trump a fascist, calling him Hitler. You had news organizations and mainstream media celebrating that, allowing those things to take place and be said on their networks. Right. That is dangerous. When you look at that, when you look at where we are, when you look at how we got here, now people that are celebrating Charlie's murder, celebrating a political assassination, that should never happen in the United States of America. And Maria, we must do more. We must stand firm, and there must be consequences with regards to people spewing that type of hate and celebration in the face of this. And I believe that there will be, and I certainly plan to hold them accountable. So if you are out there and you are celebrating the political assassination of a man who was exercising his free speech, a very foundational element, a cornerstone of who we are as the United States of America, you should be held accountable. You should be fired. And that is the beginning and the end of it. Full stop.
So before we get into the hypocrisy there, I just wanted to play a clip because she's indicting people. She's criticizing people for calling people fascists. Wilson, do we have this clip ready?
American politics today is between these far-left fascists led by Harris and her group. We have a fascist person running who's incompetent. She's a Marxist, communist, fascist, socialist. She's not actually a socialist. She's gone past that. Somebody's got to explain this woman. There's a radical left Marxist, communist, fascist.
I mean, so I'm sure Katie Britt must be so upset about Trump engaging in that rhetoric, that hateful speech. Yeah.
That's so good. I didn't know he called people fascists. I knew obviously he called people commies and scum, but he even threw in fascist, the F word, which is so funny.
He really rounds out
I do think like Republicans, when they complain about Democratic rhetoric, there are aspects of it that I think are legitimate. Like I do think, for example, I'm sorry to be a broken record, but framing Trump as a Russian asset was really damaging, very divisive, did fuel polarization. Also using lawfare against Trump to basically prevent him from running for re-election, as all those cases I think were intended to do. I also think that fueled polarization. I think Republicans have a legitimate grievance there. But to claim that like they don't use divisive rhetoric when Trump is like the king of it, as you can see there from that clip, I mean, come on.
Also, I just want to say that, in terms of the right-wing violence, this is a slightly different point from what you're making, but it's related. There is a lot of both sides in it. And in terms of the actual violence, according to the Cato Institute, which is not, a lefty org, obviously, 11% of politically motivated murders from 1970 to 2020 came from the far right, only 2% from the left. And even the ADL, obviously we don't rely on their statistics because they consider any criticism of Zionism to be anti-Semitism. But they did determine that 76% of extremist-related murders in the past decade have been committed by those on the far right. And again, that's a huge deal considering that they love both sides and anti-Semitism, right? But even they couldn't pretend that it was the left.
It was just the anniversary of Tupac Shakur's murder, and he had a friend named Cato. He would sometimes shout out. So whenever I hear Cato Institute, I just hear Tupac saying Cato.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you think it's an institute founded to honor Cato.
Cato. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to.
Oh, well, no, wait, let's just quickly examine the rank hypocrisy here, right? So, okay, what's being said here is that people need to be fired for exercising free speech, the free speech that Charlie Kirk was exercising. So basically you have people saying Charlie Kirk should be allowed to say whatever he should. Charlie Kirk should not have been killed for what he said. Hard agree, by the way. Freedom of speech is a cornerstone of this country. Okay. And in order to honor Charlie Kirk and freedom of speech, we would like to shut down people's freedom of speech. That's what you said.
Yes, and now we're seeing people literally being fired for the most like benign acts. So, for example, let's look at this example. There's a theater professor at a school in Tennessee, and let's show this. Austin, how to pronounce this?
PA?
Austin PA professor, this is in Tennessee, fired over social media post following Charlie Kirk's death. And what is that social media post? Let's go to the next slide. This is what this theater professor shared. No, it's the next one.
Tweet in the document.
Yeah. There we go. Charlie Kirk says gun deaths, unfortunately, worth it to keep the Second Amendment. So this theater professor just literally shared a headline about Charlie Kirk, an argument he made saying Charlie Kirk says gun deaths are unfortunately worth it to keep the Second Amendment, because there is a clip of Charlie Kirk saying that it's worth having a few gun deaths every year so that our guns can protect our other freedoms, our other hard-won freedoms. That was Charlie Kirk's argument. And so this professor just shared that, literally just shared, and then he gets fired. So where are all the like free speech supporters now that someone's being fired for doing stuff like that? And Karen Attiah, who's a columnist at the Washington Post, the only full-time Black columnist at the Washington Post, she was just fired because she shared, like, among other, she condemned Charlie Kirk's murder, but she shared also a comment Charlie Kirk had made about, like, a disparaging comment he made about Black women and their intelligence. So she was just fired for that. So, I mean, are any of the free speech people who claim that, like, Charlie Kirk is a martyr for free speech, are any of them going to defend someone's free speech being taken away and being fired simply for sharing Charlie Kirk's statements?
Right. And you know what? You should, if you honor Charlie Kirk, he did say you should be allowed to say outrageous things. You should be allowed to say contrarian things. So, yeah. But also, I want to point out the contrast between kind of I don't want to say the left and the right, because MSNBC isn't the left, but let's say the liberals and the conservatives. So people may know that Matt Dowd was fired from MSNBC. Let's take a look at what Matt Dowd said. He was an MSNBC journalist. Let's take a look at what he had to say, which got him fired.
What was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
Okay. So, Okay, so contrast that, what he just said, which I think are fairly stupid comments, and yeah, they could be seen as callous, but contrast that over which he was fired to the statements we're going to see right now coming up from Brian Kilmeade at Fox News. And apologies for the dog. Wilson, it's Kilmeade, 8C.
Given billions of dollars to mental health and the homeless population. A lot of them don't want to take the programs. A lot of them don't want to get the help that is necessary. You can't give them a choice. Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them.
Yeah, Brian, why?
Okay, so there you have Brian Kilmeade saying that people who are mentally ill and homeless should and don't accept services and treatment should be given that lethal injection, involuntary. Just kill them all. And has he been fired? No.
No, he did apologize.
He did apologize. Yes, he did. Yeah.
So good for Fox News for making someone apologize for advocating murder of unhoused people.
Yeah.
That's a new level of journalistic accountability that I guess we're not used to, but even for them, I think it's too far. But yeah, no, of course he's not fired. So yeah, I mean, I think Matthew Dowd's comment was also stupid, but
yeah, I think it was stupid more than anything else, honestly.
Did he deserve to be fired? I don't know. I mean, I'm biased. I think they all deserve to be fired anyway. So,
we'll take it where you can get it, even if it shouldn't be over this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, speaking of violence, we're exporting a lot of it, including into Ukraine, where we're fueling a proxy war that people like Lindsey Graham are really proud of. He's been a longtime champion of using Ukraine for the goal of bleeding Russia. But now things are, coming to a head because Trump campaigned on ending the war, which he hasn't done, but he's also not ideologically devoted to continuing it. But he does have a lot of people around him who are, like Secretary of State Mark Rubio and Keith Kellogg and others. And so there is a push now for even more sanctions on Russia on top of all the other sanctions we have. Let's pile on some more sanctions. That's what people like Lindsey Graham want. But Lindsey Graham needs Europe to get on board because Trump just issued this threat to Europe where he was like, listen, if you want me to sanction Russia, you got to do it first. Like, you got to stop buying Russian energy, which Europe continues to do despite the sanctions on Russia. Because guess what? Europe needs Russian energy. And that's why, what's among many reasons why having this proxy war was so silly, because on top of getting a lot of people killed, it just made everything a lot more expensive and difficult for everybody. Anyway, here's Lindsey Graham calling on Europe to step up with more sanctions.
I want to talk to you about Russia, which I know you've been very focused on. This week, NATO planes, as you well know, shot down Russian drones in Polish airspace. On Saturday, Romania scrambled fighter jets after a Russian drone entered its airspace. You said this week, quote, "We've tried the red carpet approach. It ain't working." Is it time for President Trump to directly punish Putin?
No, it is time for Europe to get behind President Trump to punish Putin's customers. Putin has been sanctioned, literally his economy has been sanctioned every way it can be sanctioned. President Trump approach is to go after China and India. President Trump put a 25% tariff on every Indian product coming into America because they buy cheap Russian oil. He is now going after China. He posted yesterday to our European allies, mostly NATO allies, that he expects them to follow his lead by imposing tariffs on China for 50 to 100%, up to 100% on products coming into Europe. It is now time for Europe to get behind the Trump approach. The Europeans say they love the Graham bill. Graham-Blumenthal bill is 85 co-sponsors in the Senate that will allow President Trump to tariff people who buy cheap Russian oil and for their benefit.
By the way, notice he almost tried to get away with calling it just the Graham bill. Then it's like the Graham bill, Graham-Blumenthal bill. Nice try, Lindsey.
Well, it's an example of that sort of bipartisan unity that we're all looking for. Coming across the aisle to wage a proxy war against the world's other top nuclear power and destroy everyone's economy in the process. These people are so addicted to war that now they want to impose tariffs on anybody who dares to, like, not even give Russia weapons, but just trade with Russia. Because the whole point of this war, as you can read about in my forthcoming book on the topic, was not to help Ukraine. It was just to weaken Russia. And that's why there's this big effort to destroy its economy, as the Biden administration bragged about trying to do. Remember Biden saying the ruble is now rubble and blah, blah, blah. But of course, Biden, being completely demented and out of step with reality, was again speaking he spoke way too soon, and it hasn't happened. So now they're trying to impose these new measures. It's just constantly doubling down on a overriding commitment to proxy warfare. That's all this is about.
Yeah, I mean, that's all true. And just going back to how he tried to mention his name without Blumenthal, his narcissism almost got in the way of that beautiful bipartisanship. So we're very glad that he remembered it was Blumenthal's also. But, I mean, this is, again, we see that such a fetishization of sanctions. And Aaron, you very rightly call sanctions murderous because they often are murderous. And I think that's something we should remember. People think that because it's not war, outright war or boots on the ground, that it's like not that deadly. But a recent Lancet study found that sanctions cause around 564,000 deaths annually, which is similar to the amount of deaths from war. Yeah.
Yeah. And one overlooked aspect of this proxy war, which again, read about in my forthcoming book on the topic, which is actually coming out.
When?
It's going to come out early next year at this point.
Oh,
but that's actually going to happen. So anyway, but so in Russia, like Russia is a big resourceful country, so they've been able to absorb these sanctions, and obviously, I'm sure life is more difficult, but it's not like Russians are still fine. It's other countries that have really felt the impact. So for example, countries that rely on grain exports, including that come from Ukraine and from Russia, like in Africa, they suffered a lot. Their prices went up. And there was a line in the Washington Post a few years ago about the Biden administration and their thinking. And what it said was that the Biden administration is willing to countenance mounting global hunger if it means taking on Russia. So in Washington, there was awareness that our sanctions were going to raise global food prices, increase global hunger, but they're willing to countenance that because the overriding goal here was just to wage a proxy war. So we're still.
And where did that come out?
Say it again.
I didn't see that covered by the media.
It was in the Washington Post.
I know
it was.
Shouldn't have been
it was
like
covered on my. It was covered on my Twitter feed and my Substack But yeah, countenance. I'm quoting, willing to countenance mounting global hunger. So that's been the policy. We can destroy economies. We can raise food prices because our ultimate goal is to just bleed this other nuclear power. Okay, well, let's hear more sanctions talk from Speaker Mike Johnson.
Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, says, as he did this weekend, now is the time for Russia sanctions. President Trump opened the door on tariffs against India and China as a way to create economic leverage to end the war in Ukraine. Where do you stand on all that?
Well, listen, I do believe that desperate times call for desperate measures, and I think appropriate sanctions on Russia are far overdue. I mean, I think there's a big appetite for that in Congress, so we're willing to work with the White House and our Senate colleagues in the House to get that done, and I'm anxious to do it personally.
Are you waiting for the president to give you the green light, or might Congress act on this on its own volition?
Well, Congress really can't do this on its own volition because, of course, the president...
Again, another episode of Are We Sanctioning Russia Yet? Like, can you guys ask a question aside from when? Are we sanctioning Russia yet? Are you going to do it on your own, or do you need Trump's approval? Can we, like, what is the...
Are you going to get her done? Yeah.
What is the obsession with sanctioning Russia? I mean, like, you know, again, this is not what most Americans wake up thinking about. Like, are we putting more sanctions on Russia? Right. But yet, this is like one of the top questions from corporate news anchors.
Didn't we just establish that there are terror sexuals? Like Trump is a terror sexual. Well, these people are definitely sanctioned sexuals.
That was your line, and yes, they are sanctioned sexuals. Absolutely, that's their kink. Absolutely.
And by the way, how about you give us some likes? I mean, where else do you hear this analysis about sanctioned sexuality? We are at over 2,400 watching, and we have 908 likes. Come on, get this up to 1,000. I'm being really tolerant. This should be at 1,000 right now. By the end of the next clip, it better be up to 1,000, and that's still not bad.
All right.
Fresh. Okay.
All right. Let's turn to another useful idiot's fan favorite, Congressmember Michael McCaul, who also has some thoughts about Russia.
Developments this week in the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. So I'm joined now by Congressman Michael McCaul of Texas, the former chair of the Homeland Security and Foreign Relations Committee. It's good.
Whoa. Okay. By the way, you notice anything different about him? A little highlights, a little color has been added.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Lindsey Graham walked so this guy could run. Lindsey Graham went gray so this guy, I guess, could dye his hair. Don't do it, gents. Don't do it.
At least it isn't too much moose, TMM.
It's true, yeah. It's TMB, too much brown. But better than TMM. And if you got TMB and TMM, wow.
To see you this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Congressman, President Trump said on Thursday that those 19 Russian drones that entered Polish airspace could be a mistake by Russia. Do you think it was a mistake?
With all deference to the president, I don't think that was a mistake. I think Putin is testing the resolve of NATO. He wants to see how NATO reacts, how Poland reacts. The good news is Poland had a great response. They shot him down. But it shows you how aggressive Putin is getting in the region.
Great response. Great response. It's a wonderful response. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah, no notes.
Just shoot those drones down. Shoot those. That's a great response.
Yeah,
it's a great response. You know, this isn't the first time. So, you know, I don't know what happened here. There's all sorts of theories, but let's assume that these Russian drones did fly into Poland. Again, this speaks to me ultimately to the dangers of fueling a proxy war against a nuclear armed power, because Poland is a NATO member. And stuff like this could trigger an escalation. A few years ago, there almost was one. I don't know if you remember this, but there was some missiles that landed in Poland, and both Ukraine, Zelensky, and an anonymous senior U.S. official said the missile came from Russia. And Zelensky was saying, this is an attack on NATO. You guys have to respond militarily. And there was like 24 hours of global worry. Like, are we, what's going to happen? And then it turned out, actually, oops, this was an errant Ukrainian air defense missile that went into Poland. So never mind that.
So ridiculous.
But like Reuters, it was the AP or Reuters, one of those still like reported this as fact that it was Russia, and never confronted their U.S. source that gave them false information that it was Russia. And the reporter actually was fired, but the official who fueled this was not outed. And of course, Zelensky was able to just like get away with like calling for World War III. Right. So this speaks to the ongoing dangers of having this war. But Michael McCall wants to continue them.
Yeah.
And not only the drones, but these war game exercises with Belarus right on the NATO border, the Baltic states.
Okay, wait. Russia is endangering the world because it's having war games with Belarus on the NATO border. Why is NATO on the Russia-Belarus border? Are they not allowed to have war games in their own territory? Right. Maybe we shouldn't be expanding to their border. Has anybody thought of that?
Right. And where are we allowed to have our war games? What are they going to tell us?
We're allowed to have it right on Russia's border, as we do every single year. We have massive war games every year on Russia's border, which he's a big fan of.
The nuclear bombers that flew to Poland around close to their airspace, and then these strikes up in the Arctic. He's really putting the pressure on right now.
But Poland obviously did not think that was a mistake, and NATO is moving air defenses, including air patrols, from the Baltics to the Mediterranean. Do you think that's a good move, or could that possibly escalate things?
Well, I think it's a response to Putin's aggression. Putin is the one responsible for this. And so it's called Eastern Sentry. That means the prepositioning of assets, relocation of military assets to the eastern flank of NATO, right on the border. We've never seen anything like this in recent times. And so what I'm concerned about is that the escalation here and the temperature rising, we got to be very careful not to be on the precipice of a World War III.
Talk about that more, because
we have to be careful not to be in the precipice of a World War III while fueling a proxy war on Russia's borders and having war games and constantly calling for more aggression. I mean, there's a bit of a disconnect there between his stated intent and the policies he supports.
Right. Don't pay attention to that, Aaron. Focus on the hair. The hair makeup change. Now I think I understand why he's doing that. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next clip, because we just heard him say that like in all deference to Trump, of course he has to kiss the ring, but here he's going to make a claim about what's happening between Trump and Putin that, I don't know, sounds a lot like what Democrats would say.
Trump this week, and again, multiple threats about these sanctions. Starting back August 21st and 22nd, he says they'll know what happens in 2 weeks. Trump says on August 18th, it would be known in a week or two whether the war would continue, and we'll do something. August 15th, it goes on and on and on, and these deadlines simply pass, and Putin puts more pressure and bigger attacks in Ukraine.
And it would give the president more strength in his negotiations. Now, as I understand it, the president wants all of NATO to join together on secondary sanctions. It doesn't do us any good to put secondary sanctions
and stop buying Russian oil.
Right.
You think that's going to happen?
And allow France and Germany to continue to.
Again, like the question is, when are we going to sanction not just Russia, but everybody else too? They can't think of any alternative, like say, I don't know, abandoning a horrible, futile proxy war, engaging in negotiations, cutting everyone's losses rather than sacrificing more Ukrainians, recognizing that Russia does have grievances, whether you like Russia or not. Like, they don't want to have a hostile military alliance on their border. And ethnic Russians inside eastern Ukraine have been discriminated against ever since the 2014 coup that we backed. I mean, that's just true. And there was a Minsk peace accord that was supposed to address that, which of course Ukraine and the U.S. ignored, but not allowed to talk about that. So let's just talk about more sanctions.
Right.
By Russian oil. So this has to be a team effort. I think NATO needs to stick together on this. And NATO as a organization with the United States leading puts the secondary sanctions on. I predict that is what's going to happen.
Tom Tillis said he believes Russia is playing the U.S. Do you think President Trump was played, especially at that Alaska summit?
I never had any good faith anticipation of these negotiations. Putin is a KGB once and always, and I don't.
Okay, KGB once and always. I mean, was it fair game to bring up or relevant to bring up that like George Bush, Papa Bush was CIA? Like once a CIA, always CIA?
Well, in fairness, I do think that is fair.
Right, but yes, it is. But something tells me that this guy wouldn't be a fan of that disclosure. Yes, of course it's fair, yeah.
I don't think he's playing fair. I think he's manipulating the president as a KGB officer would.
Okay, kind of throwing Trump under the bus there. You're saying that Trump's getting manipulated by Putin? Like, I mean, you're supposed to be kissing Trump's ring, and now you're saying he's being like like he's being played by Vladimir Putin. I mean, I don't know, kind of throwing him under the bus there.
Yeah. If I'm Trump, I'm angry.
Yeah.
I think the president, though, the good news is waking up to the fact that Putin is not negotiating in good faith, not making concessions, and has to be dealt with. And the more Putin irritates the president, I think the better we are in terms of defending NATO and Ukraine.
The more Putin makes Trump mad, the better. This is great. The more we're upset with the leader of a rival nuclear power, the better. This is wonderful.
Right, exactly,
Good. Let's increase the irritation level. Let's turn it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Look, the problem with all these shows is they just erase so much factual context. So they, it's really so in the narrow spectrum of opinion, all this sounds like like reasonable. But the problem is, as we've talked about endlessly, 3 years ago now, more than 3 years ago, there was negotiations in Istanbul. Ukraine and Russia reached the outline of a deal. Zelensky walked away from it when the US and UK told him not to sign it and encouraged him to walk away by offering him a lot more weapons. Then Ukraine did walk away, did make some gains on the battlefield. They did actually evict Russia from 2 provinces, Kherson and Kharkiv. And that's when General Mark Milley, the top US military officer, this is now 3 years ago, fall 2022, he said, okay, this is as far as Ukraine can go. Now let's negotiate. And rather than even listen to him, the Biden administration said, no, Zelensky, keep fighting. And so now we're in a situation now where Russia, they feel as if they had a deal in Istanbul. Ukraine walked away from it. Russia has sacrificed a lot of people. And so to teach everyone a lesson, they're going to keep going. And yeah, they are now asking for harsher terms than they were offering back in Istanbul. And it's a tragedy. It's too bad. And they do want to steal Ukrainian territory. But the question for people like Michael McCall is do you want to continue with your current strategy of sacrificing Ukrainians and having Ukraine lose even more territory? Because that's the trajectory that it's going on. Whether you can get even your secondary sanctions or not. On the battlefield, Russia is not going to give up because, India gets more sanctions on it. That's just Russia's invested too much now in this war. And that's because there was a thwarted diplomatic opportunity more than 3 years ago.
Right, which our media never covers, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, before we move on to the next very politically substantive thing that we're going to say, I couldn't help it. Look at that before and after.
Okay. Well,
I'm just saying, I like it more gray.
You do? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
keep it gray, gents. And here, this isn't, Bill de Blasio is making the same mistake too. Keep the dye out of your hair, guys. Keep it out.
It's a very sensitive topic. I don't like talking about it publicly.
Yeah.
I will comment on moose.
Moose.
Moose,
but not
I will call out too much moose. Yeah. But,
interesting.
Yeah.
So for you, for whatever reason, color is sacred, but moose isn't.
It's just like men's hair. It's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
It's a very sensitive topic for people. Okay. Let's turn to Pete Buttigieg. Is that right? Is that our next one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pete Buttigieg.
Now, Pete Buttigieg recently made some like social media buzz because he was on Pod Save America, and they asked him about Gaza, the genocide in Gaza, and he gave the most like incoherent non-answer ever. You should look it up. You haven't seen it, everybody. It's so funny. He just like digs himself such a deep hole because he won't just give an honest answer, which is that we're supporting a genocide. Right. So anyway, that's Pete Buttigieg. So, but that's behind him, and here he is weighing in on a more comfortable topic for him, which was what happened with Joe Biden trying to run, then dropping out, and Kamala Harris has a new book out in which she said that Biden acted recklessly. So Pete Buttigieg is here to weigh in.
Good thing she didn't say anything about that.
About this new
running.
Yeah, or good thing she didn't distance herself from Biden by saying we're going to stop the genocide.
Right. Yeah. I have to ask you about this new book, Vice President Kamala Harris. We are starting to see some excerpts. She writes about President Biden's decision to run for re-election, and she says this, quote, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness."
I think it was cowardice, like everything else everyone in that circle did. Cowardice also in refusing to stand up to Israel and call off the genocide, which could have also, on top of just being the moral thing to do, could have helped them win the election if she'd established even a little bit of distance between herself and Trump and Biden's pro-genocide policy, which I haven't heard her reckon with yet.
Right.
Certainly, The Atlantic is not the Atlantic magazine, which printed this excerpt. It's run by a former Israeli prison guard, so they're certainly not going to promote any kind of contrition over supporting the Gaza genocide and refusing to distance Kamala Harris from Biden's policy of genocide.
Right. And just a little reminder that 29% of those who voted for Biden, but not Harris, the top line issue for them was Gaza.
Were in the president's cabinet, of course. Do you believe it was recklessness for President Biden's inner circle not to intervene sooner?
He should not have run. And if he had made that decision sooner, we might have been better off. But it literally was his decision. Nobody else was able to make that decision. And now in front of us, we're confronted with the decisions that come next, whether that's inside of a political party or movement, or as we're all weighing right now, in our own lives as Americans, as a country. And that's where we've got to focus.
Mr. Secretary, did you ever speak out and urge him not to run? And was it recklessness on behalf of the people who didn't do so?
I was not included in the process of deciding whether the president should run again. He made that decision, and I think I'm...
Technically, it wasn't even his decision. It was like the people around him who made the decision, because like the mandarins who were basically running everything, they were like, yeah, Joe's running, and so everyone's got to fall in line. And yeah, this was a cowardly cabinet who didn't stand up to him, and it didn't stand up to him on a much more important issue than him running, which is supporting genocide, giving Netanyahu a bear hug. And still, even though, those polls, as you talked about, show the base is not with Israel at all, there's still no self-reflection about that. There's still, from Hakeem Jeffries, a refusal to endorse Zohran Mamdani in New York because Zohran Mamdani is critical of Israel. He's vowed to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, which, by the way, I mean, talk about like, a fraught political moment. And Zohran Mamdani is very brave to advocate arresting Netanyahu in this political environment where it's Israel first and people are censored, fired, and threatened for criticizing Israel. So kudos to Zohran Mamdani for sticking to principle. And if only people like Pete Buttigieg could be taking their cues from Mamdani, right? Even if you don't care about Palestine, you don't care about genocide, you don't care about daily massacres of innocent people, the destruction of all civilian life in Gaza. Just politically, Israel's not a winner anymore because Trump is so beholden to Israel. Like that's, like MAGA is Israel first now. So for Democrats, if they want to try to I think win power, should adopt a sensible moral position.
Yeah, and I just want to add that that's such a lie that it was his decision alone, and Pete knows that because he took part in a coordinated dropout effort to get to sink Bernie and to get Biden the nomination. at the
in
behest
2020.
Yeah, in 2020. Yeah.
In
Sorry,
2020.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, what could have been if only they had let, Bernie fly.
Bernard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And we didn't have any clips this week about the genocide in Gaza, so we're sorry for that. It's derelict. It's weird to not be, focusing on a genocide as it's getting unspeakably horrific by the day. I mean, it's impossible to keep track of all the atrocities, but we didn't cover it in terms of the clips because it just wasn't covered on the Sunday shows. But we just have to acknowledge all the carnage that is still happening in Gaza with our support, with Israel now just raising Gaza City, because Gaza City is the last place in Gaza that is livable. So huge high-rise buildings are all being destroyed. 1 million people there are sheltering and are now being displaced once again. It's just words can't capture it.
And the story here is that there's the story of what's happening there, and then there's the story of the media not paying attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not paying attention to a live streamed Holocaust. It's yeah. Okay. Well, we're gonna leave it there. Katie, anything coming up on the Katie Halper show this week?
Oh, yeah. I'm having on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. I'm having on Noura Erika and Muin Rabbani.
All right. Awesome. Two very astute analysts of the Gaza genocide. Okay.
All righty. And thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.
Bye.